Hello everyone, this is Jason from Primetime Aquatics, and in this video we are going to be looking at the advantages and disadvantages of a 55-gallon aquarium. Now if you've never had a 55-gallon before, these things can be really cool. So we're going to look at some of the advantages, but we're also going to look at some of the things you should think about and consider if you're going to be buying a 55-gallon. Now, one of the cool things is it's 4 feet long, and that can look substantially larger than smaller tanks like a 20-gallon or a 29 or even a 40 breeder. There's just something about that 4-foot length that really makes a tank look quite large. Now, the overall dimensions of a 55, as I've already mentioned, they're about 48 inches long, about 12.5 inches wide front to back, and about 21 inches tall. So one of the really nice advantages of a 55-gallon, besides being 4 feet long, you're also getting a large viewing panel. And that may be lacking in some smaller tanks or even some cube-sized tanks that are of the same volume. Now there are two other tanks you might want to consider as well, and that is the 40-gallon breeder and the 75-gallon. I'm going to put comparison videos in the description below as well as in the upper right-hand corner where we compare a 55 to a 40 breeder and a 55 to a 75-gallon, because I really think if you're looking at a 55 and you want to do your homework, those other two size tanks might also be a good option for you. Okay, so when it comes to the 55, we've already said that 4-foot length is super cool. That 21-inch height can be really cool for a viewing panel. What else is nice about a 55? It is a very standard size, and in fact, it's one of the cheaper kit tanks that you can buy when you're looking at dollars per gallon. You can buy an entire kit for a 55-gallon on sale, usually for around $150. And for that, you're getting the tank, you're getting the lights, the heater, the filter, maybe a net and a thermometer. The only thing you're going to have to add is a stand, your fish, and some decorations, and you should be in really good shape and ready to go. So the cost is going to be relatively inexpensive for that 4-foot tank. Now, we've done videos on kit tanks and whether or not they're worth the money. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the description below, and you can check that out. The other cool thing about a 55-gallon are the dimensions being so common, and that can save you a lot of money in the long run. So for instance, if you really look at a 55-gallon in terms of the length and the width, it's the same as putting two 20-gallon tanks together. What does that mean? It means the lids on a standard 20-gallon will fit on one half of a 55. It also means that a lot of other equipment, like lights, can be relatively easy to find. And the easier it is to find equipment, the cheaper it is to make the tank the way you want it. Now, when it comes to a 55-gallon, you're getting more stocking options. That 4-foot length gives you a lot more options. In fact, we've done a video on stocking options for a 55-gallon. I will put that in the upper right-hand corner as well as in the description below. Those fish are great options for a 55. We've done stocking options videos on lots of smaller tanks. All of those fish could fit well in a 55-gallon. And the nice thing is, if you have a little bit more active fish, that 4-foot length is going to give them the room they need to be happy and healthy. Not only that, because you've got 21 inches in height, now you're starting to think about layers. How do I want to stock this tank? You can have fish at the bottom. You can have fish that are mid-level. You can have upper-level fish. So you're getting a little bit more freedom in that respect. All right, so that all sounds great, but here's the bottom line. If that's so great in all the fish room with over 70 tanks now, why is it that we only have two 55-gallon aquariums? And the answer is relatively simple for our needs. We don't find them as valuable as the 40-gallon breeders, which are actually like 47 gallons, and a 75-gallon. And here's why. That 55-gallon is awesome because it's 4 feet. It's awesome because it is 21 inches tall. But the issue that we have is it's only 12.5 inches wide. And that's not a lot of space for fish. And so I prefer to have deeper tanks for a number of reasons. One, it makes it a little bit easier to aquascape. You're getting that extra depth, and I think that looks a little bit nicer in the 40-gallon breeders that we have, as well as our 75 gallons. Something else you should think about is a 55-gallon is a tank where you're definitely going to need a stand. A lot of the smaller tanks, like a 20-gallon, maybe even a 29 if you have sturdy furniture, you're okay with putting that on a piece of furniture. But a 55-gallon with all the water and the decorations and the gravel and the rocks, you're probably looking at somewhere between 525 to 550 pounds. That is a lot of weight, and you're going to need a dedicated stand. So that could be a disadvantage compared to smaller tanks, but you're in the same boat if you were looking at a 40 breeder or a 75 gallon. But it's just something to keep in mind. You are going to have to spend that extra $75 to $100, maybe more, on a stand for your 55 gallon. The other thing you're going to want to consider is, now that we are at a 4-foot length, in my personal opinion, when I get to a 4-foot length, whether it's a 55 gallon or we've done videos on 33 longs, which are the same length, at 4 feet, I now want 2 filters, one on each side. So that might be 2 sponge filters, that might be 2 smaller hang-on back filters as opposed to one larger one. And the reason for that, if you put one hang-on back filter and only one hang-on back filter on the end of your 55 gallon, you're going to get a lot of water circulation on one side of the tank, and you're going to get dead spots on the other side of the tank. You're going to start to see algae appear, and it's not going to look as good, and it might be a little bit more cloudy. You might get a little bit more detritus on the other side of the tank, and so it's just something to keep in mind. It is going to add a little bit of extra cost. If you go 2 smaller filters, that's probably going to be a little bit more expensive than one larger filter. Do you absolutely have to do that? No. But if you want your tank to look its best, it's always better on a 4-foot tank, in my opinion, unless you're using a canister filter where you can put the return and the intake at 2 separate sides. You might want to think about 2 smaller filters. Another thing you might want to consider with the 55 gallon is that 21-inch height. That's as tall as a 75 gallon, and it's taller than a 40 breeder. Why do I mention that? Because when we're thinking about things like tank maintenance, the taller the tank, the more difficult it is to maintain that tank. The more difficult it's going to be to catch fish out of that tank. The more difficult it's going to be to grow plants unless you have a stronger light getting all the way down to the bottom of that tank. So that height is going to make a difference. If you're not interested in trying to clean a tank that's 21 inches tall, then maybe you are looking at a 40 gallon breeder or a specialty tank, like maybe a 33 long, where you still get the 4-foot length, but they are shorter. So if we were to summarize, the 55 gallon, super cheap. Again, you can get a kit for about 150 bucks. You add in the stand, you add in your decorations and your fish, and maybe out the door, you're looking at somewhere around less than $400 to get everything up and running. You've got a 4-foot tank, which is super cool to look at. It looks a lot larger than some of the shorter tanks, even if they're deeper. You're also getting that large viewing panel, which can be cool. However, you are going to want to think about, can I really live with that 12.5 inches width from front to back, or do I want something deeper for my aquascapes to make it a little bit easier for the fish to move around? All right, I would love to hear from you in the comments section below. Once again, do you think the 55 gallon aquarium is worth it? Also, if you want to see some stocking options for a 55 gallon, check out this video. If you want to see a 55 gallon compared to a 40 breeder, check out that video. Give you a lot more information. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, share, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.